Welcome to this video lecture series on operating systems. Today's topic of discussion is on file system layout. This topic comes under the chapter file system implementations. In this session I shall explain you the file system layout. So with this illustration you will be getting the complete details. The very first thing what I have shown here is in the this part of the diagram. Okay, this is the entire disk. This disk will have different partitions here. But you are studying the layout of file system, so you should be knowing what is file system first. So what is file system? Every partition is what it is hosting an independent file system. This file system is simply a method to organize and store data on a storage device such as the hard drive, or even it can be the USB flash drive. So we want our files that gets created, these files comes under directories and the directories falls under some other directory. So that complete structure, it is a way of organizing these files, folders and directories. So we need a method here, and that method is called as file system. Okay, hope you are getting the point now. In simpler words we can say it provides a structured way to store and retrieve and manage files, directories also known as folders. Each of this partition is hosting an independent file system. Now what is the first partition here? The first partition is called as MBR. MBR stands for master boot record. Okay, then followed by we have a partition table. So what does this partition table consist of? Each entry in this table holds what? The starting address and the ending address of a partition. Since we have several partitions here on the disk, starting point of the partition and ending point of the partition is available here in the partition table. So for each of the partition there is one separate entry made here. Master boot record is what? It is the initial sector of the disk, and it is mainly used for what? Booting the computer. So in this video you can see that it is like in the form of notes as well as explanation. Now when the system is booted, the BIOS, hope you people know about this is the basic input output system. What it is a program used to start the computer. So the BIOS, which is a program which is used to start the computer when it is powered on. So when the system is booted, this BIOS will execute the MBR. The MBR has to actually locate the active partition, because out of all these partitions only one partition is active at a time. MBR will first read the active partition and it will try to read its first block. What is the first block? The first block is the boot block, and the boot block will load the operating system stored within that partition. Now within this partition, okay, whatever is the operating system that gets loaded by which program? By the boot program. The boot block is actually holding a program which will load the operating system stored within that partition. So if this partition has got the operating system that gets loaded, similarly other partitions will also have the operating systems. That means every partition will start with a boot block only, and even if it does not have currently a bootable operating system, but it may do in the future. So it starts with the boot block, super block, free space management. Let us see what is the significance of each of these blocks. So now you came to know about the boot block functionality. The next one is the super block. The super block actually holds the complete details. It will also have the information about what is the type of the file system, then how many number of blocks, that is the total number of blocks are present in that file system, and the complete administrative details. And this super block also gets loaded into the memory during the system boot. Next to super block we have a block which will have the details of all the free blocks. Then we have inodes. So inodes, as I said previously in my previous video, I gave you the complete details about the inode. What is an inode? It is an array of data structures associated with each file. Next is the root directory. Definitely the root directory is the one which is on the topmost level in the hierarchy. Any file which gets created, okay, or any system file which will be under some directory, and that directory will be under some other directory. This way you can see the hierarchy, and finally the topmost level, the top directory, we call it as the root directory. Okay, rest of the partition will have what? The remaining directories and the files within the file system. So this is what you have to know, that how the different file systems are hosted in different partitions of the disk, and Moreover, if you want to know, actually different operating systems will use different file systems. If you want to know which file system is used by which operating system, Windows uses NTFS. NTFS stands for New Technology File System. We have different file systems. To name a few, I can tell you. One is FAT, which is called as File Allocation Table. We have NTFS, New Technology File System. We have APFS, Apple File Systems. Then we have one more, EXT. Okay, EXT, normally lowercase is used here. EXT is what? Extended file systems. The Unix is making use of the extended file systems. In this video, I have mentioned all the points for this particular topic in the form of notes. So whatever explanation I gave just now, it is mentioned here also. You can see the file system resides on disks, and these disks are partitioned. Each partition will have an independent file system, and the first sector of the disk is called as the master boot record, which is used for booting the computer. The master boot record will have a table. The table will store the starting and ending addresses of each partition. One partition is active. Okay, this point you should know. One partition is active. One partition in the table is marked as active, and this MBR program has to locate that active partition, and it will start reading the first block, which is the boot block, as shown here. This is the first block, boot block, followed by the super block and rest of the blocks. The same thing I have mentioned here. See, this is the boot block explanation. What is the functionality? It will load the operating system stored within that partition. The boot block is followed by the super block, and the super block will have what type of information? It will store the type of the file system, and it will store the total number of blocks in the file system, and also it holds administrative details. Then after the super block, we have the inode, and then we have what? The root directory block. Finally, at the end, the remaining directories and files that are there in that file system. So this is all about the file system layout. Hope you find this session useful. If you find it useful, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.